A big component of RCPS Plus was field trips and other experiences outside the classroom, and here to talk about that now is Greg Johnston. He is the Director of K-5 instruction for the school system, and he sort of oversaw RCPS Plus as a whole. Before we get into the whole field trip and the experiences outside of the classroom, from your standpoint, because you were in the trenches and actually visited a lot of these schools every day, how do you think RCPS Plus went in the second year?
I think that it went very well. I think that we learned from some of the things that we did last year, and we tied in the successes from last year and built upon that, and we were able to adjust our curriculum and some of the activities that the students participated in, and it was just as exciting, and the response has been wonderful.
You know, we mentioned that a lot of our kids went on field trips, the students did, and we'll get into specifics of where they went, but why is that important to have these kids get in a bus and maybe head to Mill Mountain Zoo or Natural Bridge Zoo?
I think that when you're developing a curriculum, it's on paper, and you can give them experiences within the classroom that are one way of showing them what the information is about, but real life experiences as getting on a bus and going on a field trip, you can tie in that experience with the curriculum, and it makes it more real life experience.
And you know, as we mentioned, some of them went to Natural Bridge Zoo as well as Mill Mountain Zoo. It's not just going to the zoo, though. I mean, it's tied into what you're learning and the themes. Maybe explain that a little bit.
Correct. Each week during RCPS Plus, we had a theme, and so the field trips are tied into those themes to make it a real life experience. But also, we wanted to tie in some of our locality, some of the places that they can go to in Roanoke and outside of Roanoke. Many of our children do not experience those types of trips, and so we want to make sure that it's a full experience, and each trip and distance was based on age and how far, and so some of them were a little bit longer trips than others, but we tied the curriculum into every experience that they did on the field trip.
And another place they went was the Homestead Creamery. What was that like? I would imagine, I understand a lot of them got free ice cream, which is nice.
Absolutely. Students and teachers said that that was one of the best field trips they've ever been on. They said that the individuals that were leading the field trip at the Homestead Creamery were some of the most inviting, caring people that they have ever met, and they were really excited. And it was also great to see how exactly the creamery worked and the products that they made, and because a lot of times children just go to a particular store, purchase something, and they don't know exactly how it's made. So it was a really good life experience for them.
And this again tied into what you were learning in RCPS Plus. The theme would have been farm animals,
Correct.
Right?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Generally speaking, what was the reaction from whether it was the teachers or the parents? I know teachers and students. I know you touched on this a little bit with the Homestead Creamery, but when they got back from the zoo and so forth, what were they telling you in terms of the excitement?
They were very excited. Many of the places that we went to this summer, our children have never gone to before, and one of the best things is that when we tied in our writing component this summer, we have to give children the experiences and do those activities where they can actually write about that to make it more real life. But the response has been wonderful. I mean, everyone really enjoyed, and they've talked about taking those types of field trips during the school year also. So things that we're doing during the summer, we'd like to incorporate as we go through the regular school year. So,
we touched a little bit, or we focused on elementary schools. The middle school kids and RCPS Plus also went on field trips, and the big one was at Virginia Western. What was that all about?
The field trip to Virginia Western had to do with the catastrophe unit, and we also utilized local fire and rescue, our Roanoke City Police, Virginia Western Community College, and all the resources that would be utilized during a catastrophe. And we focused on the flood of 1985, and we talked about what would happen if a catastrophe happened now, and who would be responsible and what their jobs were. And so it made children understand what they would have to do if they were ever in that situation, who they could depend on. So it's great.
And we should probably mention, for people who may not been, who weren't here in 1985, that was obviously an historic flood here in the Roanoke Valley.
It was, yes.
Talk about how the partnerships, the community partnerships with that event, junior achievement coming together and wanting to put this event on for our students.
Correct. Junior achievement has been wonderful. The Roanoke Valley libraries have been wonderful. All of our fire and rescue and emergency services have been great. They've all been very engaged in everything that they've done, and they've been very excited to work with the children, and that's what made the field trips even better for our students. They understand that they can trust these individuals and they can count on them, and that they do care about, the groups do care about the Roanoke Valley and Roanoke City Public Schools.
And at the Virginia Western one, I know there was a lot of hands-on activities. I remember the big one was with the firefighters and rescuing people.
Yes.
And talk about the reaction of the students. I mean, they really got into it, right?
They did. One of the activities had to do with throwing a lifeline, and the fire and rescue individuals would be out, and they would talk about how they have to do that if someone is trapped in flood waters or in a situation to where they may be close to drowning. And so they really interacted, and they made it very exciting to the children. And and no one was, if they could not throw it very far, it wasn't a piece where, hey, it was always, you can do better. That's a great job. Hey, think about it this way when they throw the lifeline. So it was a great activity.
And the other thing we should probably mention, it may not necessarily be a field trip, but it's a field trip, but it's important to our middle school as well as our rising ninth graders to be part of a college experience, right? You want them to start
Correct.
thinking about that, and why is that important?
Correct. Well, we want to make sure that they can understand that college is an option, and to make something realistic to someone, they actually have to see what it looks like, what are some activities, and give them guidance on how they need to take, which steps to take to get to that point. So when you take someone out to someone and they can visualize it, they can believe in it more than if it's on a piece of paper.
Well, I know it was a lot of hard work, a lot of collaboration, people working together, but at the end result, a lot of people were happy and learned a lot from it. So.
Absolutely. We've not had anyone complain about the field trips that they've taken this year, and we tried to expand upon that each and every year, and it's been great that the Roanoke Valley has been so accommodating to all of our students.
That's good to hear. Well, Greg, I appreciate you joining us, and we'll be right back.